Hey booktube, it's Kelly. Thank you so much for watching my channel, Books I'm Not Reading. So it's Saturday. We are expecting a foot of snow this weekend. And I have had a really long, exhausting week at work. But sometimes it just feels really good to be busy sometimes. Unfortunately, that has hampered my reading. I am still reading My Name is Asher Lev by Chaim Poljak, and I'm really enjoying this. I know some of you have already been like, oh, I can't wait to hear what you think, and I'm about 50 pages in. The copy is really like, yeah, it's falling apart a little bit. And of course, I'm also reading Les Miserables, which that's primarily what I'm going to talk about today, but kind of want to talk to you guys about footnotes and endnotes, what you think of them. Do you hate them? Do you read them? Are they useful? What do you think? And part of what got me thinking about this is a new book that I just got as a gift from Jason, which is the Annotated Mrs. Dalloway. Now, I have to confess, I have not read any of Virginia Woolf's novels. I know, it's gonna be remedied though. It's gonna be remedied because I've got a buddy read of Mrs. Dalloway and Michael Cunningham's The Hours, set for the spring. So I'm so excited about who I'm reading those books with, and it's gonna be fantastic. This book scares me a little bit, and I will show you why. So, I mean, like, there's, again, as with the other annotated editions I have, I mean, this one has tons of photos, there's a map, but the annotations, can you see how small the text is? This is the text of the book, and this is the text of the annotations. So, I'm a little terrified, and I know my buddy readers are going to get way ahead of me because I do read annotations, footnotes, endnotes. Now, sometimes, like when I'm reading Shakespeare, talk about Shakespeare a little bit more here in a sec, but when I'm reading Shakespeare, like sometimes the notes, eventually I just get into the story and I don't need the notes. And oftentimes, some editions, the things I want notes about, there are no notes. So that's frustrating too. But it took me a long time to really understand, like, why, if we own, I've got like this precarious stack of books here. So if I own the complete works of Shakespeare, which one of you wonderful people sent to my husband and I, thank you so much. And this is the Royal Shakespeare Company edition, and it does have notes. And I think with each play there's an introduction, giving it maybe some context. The front of it has a whole bunch of photographs and stuff like that. So it's really cool, right? So if you have this, like, why do you need two additional copies, right? Because the Tempest is in here. So why do we need the Signet Classic Tempest and the Arden Tempest? Well, like, they have different notes. The Arden notes, I find, I don't know how well you'll be able to see it. Like, so here's the play up here, and then here's all the notes. So it's a lot. It can be a lot. And I think the Signet ones, there's probably, maybe they're at the end. I'm not sure. I don't see, Jason's written in here, but maybe that's why we kept it. Anyway, so yeah, it's not as note heavy. And then, why do we need two additional copies of Hamlet? And again, this one was a gift, and I love it so much. But the thing about having two additional copies of Hamlet is this Hamlet, this copy of Hamlet, is actually the second quarto text, which I'm still working on learning on the different versions of Shakespeare's plays. But anyway, so these are really two different editions. One of the things that I love about notes is that they help us understand the author, references that, I mean, definitely I would say Shakespeare was writing for the people who were alive then. He was not thinking about us, you know? And so, like, the people who were watching Shakespeare's plays, they got it, right? They were in on the joke, or they knew when Shakespeare was like messing around with history and things like that, just for the purposes of his play, like for the plot and, you know, those sorts of things. I think they can be really revealing about the author, which is definitely what I have found to be the case with my number one book of the year, which is Les Miserables. This was translated by Julie Rose. And I also got a paperback copy of Les Miserables with the musical cover, iconic image. The reason that I really wanted to read Les Miserables is because of the musical. We can talk about that. We'll talk about musicals another time, but I've tried using this paperback and I just don't really like it. Part of that is the translation, which is making me like a little freaked out about every translated book that I have ever read. Because I'm like, what if I was reading a translation that I didn't really like? So for instance, the Odyssey, which there are numerous translations of course, I read it in college and I wish I had held on to it because I did like that translation. Like I was able to get into, the rhythm of the book, I guess, if you will. And, and I don't know if that's the case of the copy of the Odyssey that we own now. It's a different version, it's a different translation. I don't know what it is. I didn't grab it. I can see it on the other side of the library here. But anyway, so I've tried reading this, you know, just a couple times, and it is really good. Sometimes I feel like in this edition, which was published in 2008, that Julie Rose is a little too modern, a little too contemporary. I mean, you know, this book takes place in the mid 1800s, maybe a little earlier than that, early 1800s. I don't think anyone would be saying what's up. So yeah, so I can look at this translation, which came out in the 80s. I want to say 87. It's also a Signet Classic, and it was, at the time, a new unabridged translation by Lee Fabnestock, Norman McAfee, and based on C.E. Wilbur's classic translation. So this was, I mean, I'm sure this edition was prompted by the success of the musical, but like the play we were looking at that was a Signet Classic, there's hardly any notes. There's just like occasionally, I don't even know if I can find one. There'll be something, just a quick footnote at the bottom of a page, and it's really hard for me. I'm not even seeing any right now. Just flipping through this book. Yeah. So, and again, I don't know how well you guys will be able to see. So there's just some tiny little notes at the bottom. That's it. This monster, on the other hand, has pages and pages of notes in the back. And I admit that sometimes, like her modern translation, the notes take me out of the book. but I will try to show you. Oh my God, there's so many notes, you guys. And honestly, for those of you who've read Les Mis, you know, like there are these kind of tangents that Victor Hugo takes the reader on. Yeah, so of this monster book, this is all notes. So all of this is notes for the book. And the book, this is where I'm at right now. So I find the notes really helpful because at times, like, Victor Hugo is just like listing off, he's just like rattling off names of different people. And again, I think Victor Hugo was very much writing for the people of France. I don't think he was thinking about anybody. I don't even think he was thinking about people in other countries. There's all of these people who were real people that are in the book. You know, people who really did fight at Waterloo. I still can't believe there's a section of this book on Waterloo, but anyway, you know, yeah, like occasionally he does take us sort of out of the story that I want to read anyway, and is talking about life in France at different times, and the tension and the conflicts between, like, you know, different ideas. It's really, yeah, but having a note at the end really helps you understand. And she even says in some of the notes, we're only going to talk about the people who were relevant to Victor Hugo. Like some of the people in this book who are real, like, nobody knows who they are anymore. So probably, again, at the time that Victor Hugo was writing this, people would have known who he was talking about, but it's lost, it's gone. And so I think that's part of why the notes are so important. And the other thing is it's really teaching me a lot about Victor Hugo. Victor Hugo had an uncle who I think I need to check the history, but I know he fought with one of the Napoleons. I'm not sure which one, but and yeah, so I mean, Victor Hugo went to where the Battle of Waterloo took place, I think in 1861, because he wanted to make sure that he had it right for this book. So there are some really, really important footnotes. I'm learning, like I said, I'm learning more about, like, Victor Hugo's life and how that's coming across in this epic novel. And again, yeah, the tangents, they do drag things down. They do slow it down, but I'm really curious, and I want to do some research on, like, why Victor Hugo included some of those things, or, you know, what people think about those parts that aren't the main part of the story. So, but I do understand how, you know, I mean, there was one section, one like mini chapter. Seriously, guys, this is how long it was. There were seven footnotes for that section. Like, it was crazy. There's another section where there's just name after name after name, and honestly, like, one sentence might have 4 footnotes in it. So it can, which is why I have the footnotes, where I am in the footnotes. You can see I have it bookmarked here, because it can pull you out of the story. I see that, and I recognize that, and sometimes I'm just more like skimming the footnotes. And again, it depends on what I'm reading and where I am, what it is that I'm reading. With Shakespeare, I feel like at a certain point I can kind of let go of those notes, and I'm in the story, and I'm there, and I don't need to keep going back to the notes all the time. I don't know what the annotated Mrs. Dalloway is going to be like. I did read all the annotations in my annotated editions of A Christmas Carol and Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass and What Alice Found There. I did read all of those, but they were they were a much bigger type font size than the ones in Mrs. Dalloway. So it'll be interesting to see what that's like. But yeah, like I said, I'm just really hoping to hear from you as to what do you think about notes. I have had notes spoil things for me, which I hate that. So yeah, so there's just a few of my thoughts on footnotes and endnotes and, you know, do you use them? Why or why not? And yeah, look forward to hearing from you down in the comment section below. If you're new to my channel, I'm so glad that you are here. I've done everything I can do to make the comment section a very safe space. But if you don't feel comfortable leaving a comment, you can always leave an emoji or give this video a thumbs up as a way of saying hello. I really do appreciate it, and it means a lot to me to hear from the people watching my videos and indulging me in talking about the same books week after week. You can also just tell me like what you're reading this weekend, what's going on. Did you finish a great book? There have been lots of times where people have updated me on a book that we've talked about previously, like, oh, I finally finished this. I love that too. Okay, booktube, remember to be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and I'll be back with another video soon. Bye.